Cold opening, there we go. All right. Yeah, excited to welcome this great group of freshmen to our program of Brotherhood, and really want to start by thanking our recruiting operations staff, on-campus staff, personnel staff. It takes everybody in this building to recruit, and I think they did an excellent job of early identification with the personnel department, combing over and finding the right fit with our coaching staff, and then obviously the on-campus, creating a unique on-campus experience that allowed us to build connections and sign these players. This is a top 25 recruiting class for the fourth time in the last 5 years. You know, put that in perspective, from 2000 to 2020, they only had 2 top 25 classes. So we're continuing to recruit at a high level, even in a time where high school recruiting has been de-emphasized because of the portal. We got 19 signees, 10 on offense, 9 on defense. 8 different signees were rated 4-star or higher. You know, we signed players from 13 different states. You know, we had either the number 1 or number 2 JUCO junior college player in the country with DeMarcus, and so we're really excited about that. You know, and I think one thing, you know, we got 15 of them that are going to be mid-year enrollees, which is awesome in getting their development acclimated to the Brotherhood and how we do things. And then I think what's really cool was we've signed 3 guys who are still competing for a state championship. We'll be playing either Friday or Saturday in Gavin Sid Wartage and DJ. So very fired up about that. And so with that, really at that point we'll take questions. So
who would like the first one? Cody.
This used to be a really big day, man. What happened? What has happened?
Well, of the guys that you have signed so far, are there any that you might think could play early or contribute early, or is it way too early to tell?
Speaking of early, that's an early question for me. Yeah, you know, I think everybody's got their own path, right? Like, you know, if you would have asked me last year at this time about do I think Matt Zollers was going to play early coming off an injury and having to rehab, we didn't even know if he's going to be able to participate in spring practice, to fast forward and he's played, you know, he started several games, played really well at times. You know, you just don't know. I think it's really important for our guys to come in and understand the message of embrace your role, put the team first, and improve every day makes us better. And they got to come in here and assimilate to how we do things, be uniquely them, but assimilate to how we do things. And we'll figure out. I do think there's some really talented players here. And with guys moving on and leaving, you're never quite sure what opportunities are going to present themselves.
Eli.
It always freaks me out when you say my name.
Mr.
Somebody else is like, what?
So, Coach, at Media Days, I think it was when you were talking about recruiting a little bit and just kind of how you have portal returning all these different ways to build a roster.
Yep.
What wound up being your level of kind of investment in high school recruiting this cycle, and what kind of shaped that for you?
Yeah, I think we're always going to be a foundational recruiting of high school players, and we always have to have a foundation of guys that we want to recruit and develop that become players for us. You look at our current roster: Dalen Carnell, Connor Tollison, Marvin Burks, Josh Manning, Marquise Johnson, Brett Norfleet, Jordan Harris, you know, Jamal Roberts, and these are just off the top of my head, that have come in, developed, played, significant contributors to us. So that's always going to be a key piece to what we want to do. And I feel like we still have those pieces moving up. And then it's, okay, how do I go in the portal and either A, replace people who are wanting to leave, or B, replace people who, or fill in gaps that maybe we weren't as right on in their development, or their development is slowed or not been as fast as we anticipated. So it's still, for us, you know, I think we're kind of in this 18 to 22 range of high school players each year, and that's probably what it will be moving forward. So yeah.
Gabe.
Hey, Eli, how different was the process this year with, I mean, and I don't know if you can educate us on how it works with revenue sharing being a part of it and these kids getting official written things that have never been a part of it in the past.
Yeah, it's really different. It's really different from, I don't think there's an awareness nationally or with agencies or parents that the previous style of NIL pass the hat fundraising, renegotiate, okay, well, we'll go call a booster and find a little bit more money to answer that. That's not possible anymore. You have a rev share amount, you have a 3PN, third-party NIL, that is potentially there but not guaranteed, and so you have a budget. And much like people have to balance their checkbook, you have to balance the budget based off of, this is what we have slotted for this player, and if I change this number, then it's gonna have to come from here. And I think that's a new reality. It's a new reality for our players on our current roster, because again, last year there was front loading. Last year there was, workarounds in the system that just aren't there yet, that aren't understood, and so you're kind of stuck with hard numbers, hard caps, and to go in and renegotiate is going to have to come from somewhere else. And my personal opinion is I think we're going to see a lot more because of a misunderstanding. I think this will be a very, very active portal season. I think you'll see more players in the portal probably than we have before, because they think or are being advised that's going to be a way to create leverage. And again, what we're being asked to do has never been done in the history of college football before, and so we're all kind of learning at the same time. So that's kind of the way it goes. I think high school players have done a really good job of, or at least our class has done a really good job of, why do you want to come to Mizzou? I want to chase two dreams. I want to develop an elite edge. I want to compete for championships. I want to do that through having a system of core values that we believe in. And while we're doing that, we're going to be compensated for it. And it wasn't the other way around. I think other places, not other places, I can't speak for everybody else, but other players are saying, how much money am I going to make? Money doesn't lead, it follows. I believe you have to have a long-term vision for what you want to accomplish. And for our players, we want to establish a vision for what their life can look like in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years, and 40 years. And how you do that is chase two dreams. Chase that dream of becoming an NFL player where there's a lot more potential money than what you can make in college. Chase two dreams of getting a college degree from one of the top public universities in the country, a AAU institution that can change your life for the better, that you can be a positive contributor to society, even when football's done. Come develop an edge of understanding how to operate on a daily basis, and then compete for championships. And really, that's what it's about. It's about finding those players who want to do that first, and then figure out what the compensation is.
Yeah.
I think more than half of this class came together in like the last 8 to 10 weeks almost. I'm wondering if you had to approach with the rules and regulation changes, if you had to approach this recruiting cycle with a little bit more patience, or if this was more kind of just an isolated event and opportunities arose with those players that committed in the last.
No, I think it kind of happened the way we expected it to and wanted it to. I think for us, we've always talked about production over potential, and when you're investing money in a product, you want to see that product senior tape. You want to see the most recent film, because can you imagine if the NFL drafted its players a year before they signed? So think about this. What if everybody was drafted? Think about that, quarterbacks in the SEC. If they were drafted in June last year, then played their senior years, and then went to their NFL teams, everybody would be shocked. So why would we do that? That's not how we operate. How we operate is, okay, we like them in June. We'll take June commitments, absolutely. But we're going to reevaluate your senior tape before we send you the offer that you can finalize from your financial, because we want to make sure that you're really who you say you were. And that's how we're going to operate moving forward. I still believe in senior tape and senior growth. Again, I couldn't fathom the NFL drafting players and then letting them play another year and seeing if that worked out for them. So we're not going to operate that way either.
Coach, in the case of DeMarcus, you're obviously landing somebody who's one of the top JUCO signings in the land. Based on your experience, how much of a boon is it to have those years under your belt wherever and then migrate into this program, already having some of that experience?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously a different level of competition, and so there's a level of growth in what they've done. Really the biggest thing for junior college players is to get acclimated to how we do things here. It'll be a little bit more structured than maybe what they were accustomed to, and so that'll be the key to the transition to and being able to elevate their level of play here.
Right.
Eli, kind of along the lines of that evolution of NIL, we've seen multi-year contracts now. You talked about Deedon. How have you evaluated those multi-year contracts at Missouri?
Yeah, we like them. Yeah, we operate with a lot of those. We utilize them because again, we want to be a developmental program, and we understand that gives them a level of security to grow and develop, and it gives us a level of security of not getting investing in somebody who's already trying to negotiate the next opportunity.
Anything else? Right here, on the right.
I've only been in here 6 minutes. Just kidding. Go ahead.
A little longer than that, but
Okay.
we got one over here, and then we'll
Over
come
there
back
first.
down.
All right, Eli, with Gavin, just what stood out about him, and is there anything in particular with your staff, this recruiting network, to be able to recruit 3 quarterbacks from that state?
Yeah, first, I think Gavin is extremely talented thrower. I think he's got an unbelievable arm streak. Obviously, he's a winner and a leader, leading his team to the state championship appearance this week. He's got really good anticipation, throws the ball really well, and he's just a right fit for us. Really loved when he was on the visit, loved our conversations. Think we've done a really good job of building some relationships in that area. And, we're an SEC team that's got a Northeast footprint, so it's kind of cool.
Okay.
I think you said, 18 to 22 high school kids for the last 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Now, as you go to the next phase, what is kind of your approach to the portal, and what are you expecting numbers-wise, position-wise, things like that?
Yeah, so, based off of what we have here, then we have a couple of positions that we've already targeted, said, okay, we want to take a couple of corners, a couple of players. Cut. We're gonna take a couple of players at this position, and maybe a couple of players at this position that we already know is gonna have, people graduating and whatnot. And then the rest of that will be based off of the attrition, right? Our ability or inability to sign or re-sign players. We have quite a few guys on multi-year contracts already, so we've been ahead of that game. But we do have some guys who have NFL decisions that they gotta make as underclassmen. And we have guys that aren't on 2-year contracts that have to make decisions on what their future looks like here. And if that means that they go to the portal, then we'll have to replace them in the portal. So I don't really have a firm number for you on that. And whatever it'll be, it'll be.
Kyle?
I've got a handful of guys along the offensive line in this group. What led you to want to bring in kind of that big of a number for this year?
I think offensive line's a developmental position, and so if you can get the guys with the right STI, size, toughness, and instincts, and they get a chance to develop them in Coach Russell's strength program, those guys aren't as easy to find out of the portal as maybe you want. So again, if you can water your own grass and develop those players, and you can get them for a price that makes sense, then let's do it that way.
In the back.
Coach, with the new transfer portal cycle, having only 2 weeks to kind of figure out what those numbers are gonna look like with guys making NFL decisions, or if they're gonna get in the portal, what kind of challenges is that gonna present for you?
Brand new challenges. Never experienced it before. And it's one of those things that it sounded like a good idea at the time. And now as you get closer to it, you go, that's not quite as good of an idea as we thought it was. And I think Coach Kiffin was a guy who was very adamant about, that we should be for the 2 portal windows. And all of us at the time were like, man, it's easier if you just have one, and at least knock it all out. And now that you're looking back on it, you're like, oof, maybe it was a little bit more beneficial to have 2. It's not gonna be an exact science in January, and one of the key things that we don't have that the NFL system has is they have waiver wires and they have trades, and we don't have that. And so once you establish your roster in January, you're locked in. One of the things that the SEC has put us at a disadvantage at is that we're only at 85 scholarships, while other school, conferences are at 105. And that puts us at I'm not real smart, but that puts us at a 20-man disadvantage for the future. And, you know, we are the best conference in college football. We've added a 9th game, and now we're at a disadvantage to the rest of the country in what we're doing. That doesn't seem like a recipe for success that needs to be reevaluated, in my opinion. Again, it's just an opinion.
Back over here.
Coach, with Jabari, the quick twitch movements, ability to make defenders miss in the open field, how does he fit that model of what you're looking for in the receiver room?
You know, we needed to get more size at the receiver room, and felt like that both Jabari and Devion presented that size and speed and length and the ability to make contacted catches. You know, last year, we got some really good players, but it wasn't at the height that we needed, and so, you know, we got to do a good job of always balancing that room out, and those two guys do that.
Gabe?
You can call it now if they got anything else. Let's not go forever.
Without talking about any specific players, what did you learn from last year about your approach to recruiting and balancing kids who might want to play right away versus that developmental piece you're talking about in taking a class?
Yeah, you know, I use this verse all the time with our players and our recruits. You know, your gift will make room for you and bring you in front of great men. Like, if you have the ability to play, you're going to be able to play early. That isn't really up to me. That's up to you and your work ethic and your desire. And, you know, we had several guys do that this year. I think we had several more that could have, but they had some really good players in front of them, you know, and so I think they did a really good job of just embracing their role, playing their 4 games, not getting, you know, in that comparison, or you know, running your own race instead of comparing your race to somebody else's. And I think that a lot of that comes from pressure from home and pressure from outside noise on why you aren't playing. But I think, you know, our guys see our culture, they see the development that they're doing, they see the weight that they're adding, knowing that if they'll just trust their process, run their race, then their time will come. And I think, again, one of the things that we have to do is continue to sell who we are and our message. You know, we've got an opportunity to win 30 games in 3 years. There's a pretty cool graphic going out right now in our comparison versus everybody else in the SEC in the last 3 years. I think we're showing who we are, and you can believe in it, buy into it. And it really is not about a logo or about, you know, chasing a brand. It's about chasing your own development and running your own race. And I think we're doing a really good job of being able to display that. I mean, you look at, you know, who we're going to put out in the NFL draft this year. I mean, Zion Young is a great example of what an opportunity he's got. I think Keegan Trost is going to be a great example of coming here, and even though it was a short time, developing into a really good player. And so I think we're continually selling that.
All right, Coach, that's all we got.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all coming today. Short notice.